Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests and seekers of inspiration. Today we gather to reflect on the echoes left behind by a remarkable individual, a man whose journey, resilience and vision continue to shape the lives of those who hear his name. Echoes of Joe Ranga is not merely a title. It is a reminder of how one life, lived with clarity and courage, can ripple across time and touch countless hearts. Joe Ranga was not born into greatness, he grew into it. Through challenges that would have silenced many, he found his voice. Through moments of doubt, he discovered direction. And through trials that seemed impossible, he carved out a path that would one day become a guide for others. The echoes of his journey remind us that true influence isn't measured by fame, wealth, or applause. It is measured by the impact we make on others, the values we uphold, and the courage we show when the world stands against us. Joe's life teaches us that leadership is not a title, it is action. It is consistency. It is the unwavering belief that change begins with a single step. His story also reminds us that every challenge carries a lesson. Every setback contains an opportunity. And every silence echoes with deeper meaning when one chooses to rise again. As we listen to the echoes of Joe Ranga, may we be inspired to create our own, to live with purpose, stand with integrity, and pursue our dreams with the same passion and determination that defined his remarkable journey. Joe Ranga's journey stands as a powerful reminder that greatness is not something inherited, purchased, or conveniently handed down. It is something shaped, refined, and earned through every struggle and every rise. His life was not built on privilege or effortless opportunities. Instead, it was carved out of challenges that could have easily broken lesser spirits. What makes Joe extraordinary is not merely what he achieved but the way he transformed adversity into strength. From the earliest stages of his life, he encountered situations that demanded maturity far beyond his years. Rather than allowing hardship to define him, he used it as fuel to build his character. He learned that true greatness is formed in the quiet battles no one sees, in the decisions made when no applause is present, and in the resilience shown when the world is indifferent to your efforts. Joe stood up again and again, each time wiser, stronger, and more determined. As he grew, he refused to rely on excuses or blame circumstances. Instead, he became the architect of his own destiny, molding his future with a combination of grit, self-belief, and relentless effort. The greatness Joe achieved was not sudden. It was gradual, built one step at a time, through perseverance, reflection, and an unwavering commitment to bettering himself. His life teaches us that greatness is not a place you arrive at. It is a lifelong process of becoming, evolving, and rising above the limitations life sets before you. One of the most striking truths reflected in the life of Joe Ranga is that genuine influence has nothing to do with titles, wealth, or social standing. Joe proved that a person's impact is not measured by what they possess but by what they inspire in others. He never relied on status symbols, special privileges, or public recognition to make a difference. Instead, he allowed his actions, values, and sincerity to speak louder than any position ever could. Joe understood that influence is built through authenticity. People were drawn to him not because he sought attention, but because he embodied qualities that others respected: integrity, empathy, consistency, and humility. He realized that true leadership and genuine impact happen in quiet moments. In the encouragement he offered someone who felt unseen, in the guidance he shared with those who needed direction, and in the hope he sparked in hearts that were losing faith. Unlike individuals who chase status for validation, Joe focused on lifting others up, knowing that real greatness comes from empowering people, not impressing them. He invested in relationships, listened without judgment, and treated everyone with dignity, whether they were celebrated or forgotten by the world. Through these actions, he earned a kind of influence that cannot be taken away. Influence rooted in trust. Joe's life reminds us that meaningful impact is built over time, through consistent deeds that reveal character. It grows every time we choose compassion over pride, responsibility over ego, and purpose over popularity. His legacy shows that the world remembers not those who shine the brightest for themselves, but those who help others discover their own light. In this way, Joe Ranga became a symbol of influence that transcends status. An example of how a single person, guided by values rather than vanity, can touch lives, shape minds, and inspire generations without ever seeking the spotlight. One of the most striking truths reflected in the life of Joe Ranga is that genuine influence has nothing to do with titles, wealth, or social standing. Joe proved that a person's impact is not measured by what they possess but by what they inspire in others. He never relied on status symbols, special privileges, or public recognition to make a difference. Instead, he allowed his actions, values, and sincerity to speak louder than any position ever could. Joe understood that influence is built through authenticity. People were drawn to him not because he sought attention, but because he embodied qualities that others respected: integrity, empathy, consistency, and humility. He realized that true leadership and genuine impact happen in quiet moments. In the encouragement he offered someone who felt unseen, in the guidance he shared with those who needed direction, and in the hope he sparked in hearts that were losing faith. Unlike individuals who chase status for validation, Joe focused on lifting others up, knowing that real greatness comes from empowering people, not impressing them. He invested in relationships, listened without judgment, and treated everyone with dignity, whether they were celebrated or forgotten by the world. Through these actions, he earned a kind of influence that cannot be taken away, influence rooted in trust. Joe's life reminds us that meaningful impact is built over time, through consistent deeds that reveal character. It grows every time we choose compassion over pride, responsibility over ego, and purpose over popularity. His legacy shows that the world remembers not those who shine the brightest for themselves, but those who help others discover their own light. In this way, Joe Ranga became a symbol of influence that transcends status, an example of how a single person, guided by values rather than vanity, can touch lives, shape minds, and inspire generations without ever seeking the spotlight. Joe Ranga's life serves as a powerful reminder that leadership is not defined by titles, positions, or authority. It is defined by action, by the choices one makes when faced with responsibility, and by the example one sets for others to follow. Joe never claimed to be a leader, yet people naturally looked to him because he consistently demonstrated the values, behaviors, and strength of character that true leadership requires. He believed that leadership begins with self-discipline, doing what is right even when no one is watching, and making decisions based not on convenience but on principle. Joe understood that words have value only when they are backed by consistent action. He never asked others to do what he wasn't willing to do himself, and this authenticity made his influence far more powerful than any formal authority ever could. When challenges arose, Joe did not stand back or wait for others to take charge. He stepped forward, not to command but to guide, showing that leadership is often quiet, steady, and humble. He earned respect by being the first to take responsibility, the first to acknowledge mistakes, and the first to work toward solutions. His actions created trust, and that trust became the foundation of his influence. Joe's leadership style was rooted in empathy and understanding. He took the time to listen, to recognize the strengths of those around him, and to help others rise to their potential. He believed that a leader's greatest achievement is not personal success but the success they cultivate in others. Through small acts of kindness, clear decision-making, and unwavering integrity, he shaped an environment where people felt supported, valued, and motivated. His example teaches us that leadership is not about controlling outcomes, but about inspiring confidence. It is not about standing in front of others but walking beside them. True leadership is proven over time through patience, accountability, courage, and consistency, qualities Joe embodied every day. His life illustrates that anyone, regardless of background or position, can become a leader simply by choosing to act with purpose, compassion, and responsibility. One of the most compelling lessons from Joe Ranga's journey is the way he handled moments of deep uncertainty. Those times when life felt overwhelming, when decisions felt impossible, and when the future appeared clouded by fear and confusion. For many people, doubt can be paralyzing. It can silence ambition, weaken confidence, and make even the strongest individuals question their own potential. But Joe understood that doubt is not a sign of failure. It is a natural part of growth, a signal that one is standing at the edge of transformation. Instead of running from these moments, he learned to confront them with honesty and courage. When doubts arose, Joe paused, not to retreat but to think more clearly. He took time to reflect, to understand his emotions, and to search for the deeper meaning behind each wave of uncertainty. He believed that moments of doubt held hidden messages, reminders to slow down, to listen to one's intuition, and to reconnect with one's true purpose. Joe also recognized that doubt often appears when we are stepping into something bigger than ourselves. It shows up when we take risks, when we challenge our limits, and when we pursue goals that require boldness and belief. Rather than letting such moments guide him away from his path, Joe used them to reinforce his determination. Every time he questioned himself, he reminded his heart why he started. Every time he hesitated, he revisited the vision he carried inside. And every time he felt uncertain, he used that feeling as a push to grow stronger. He also sought wisdom in these moments. Joe understood that nobody succeeds alone, and he was never afraid to reach out for advice, guidance, or support. He valued the strength that comes from community, from mentors, and from heartfelt conversations that help clear the mind. This willingness to seek clarity, rather than pretending to be invincible, became one of his greatest strengths. Through these experiences, Joe proved that true strength is not the absence of doubt. It is the ability to move forward despite it. He demonstrated that courage is not found in moments of certainty, but in moments when the heart trembles yet still chooses to rise. His journey shows that doubt does not diminish greatness. It shapes it, sharpens it, and gives it depth. Every struggle in Joe Ranga's life carried a message, a lesson, a quiet truth waiting to be uncovered. While many people view hardship as something purely negative, an interruption to their plans or a punishment from life, Joe learned to see challenges from a different perspective. He understood that struggles are not obstacles meant to block the path. They are teachers meant to guide us, shape us, and strengthen us from within. Throughout his journey, Joe faced moments that felt heavy, moments where the weight of responsibility, failure, or disappointment threatened to pull him down. But instead of allowing these moments to drain his spirit, he treated each struggle as an opportunity to learn something new about himself and the world around him. He discovered that every moment of pain carries a deeper purpose, and that growth often happens in silence, far away from applause or recognition. One of the lessons Joe learned through struggle was patience. Life does not always move at the pace we desire, and progress is rarely as straightforward as we imagine. Setbacks taught him to slow down, to breathe, and to trust the process even when outcomes were uncertain. Each delay showed him that timing matters, and that some things require maturity, preparation, and resilience before they can be achieved. Another lesson he found hidden in hardship was empathy. Going through his own trials helped Joe better understand the struggles of others. It made him more compassionate, more patient, and more willing to listen. He realized that people often carry unseen burdens, and he used his experiences to support, uplift, and guide those who felt lost. His pain became a source of connection rather than isolation. Struggles also taught Joe adaptability. When life pushed against him, he learned to bend without breaking. Instead of resisting change, he adjusted his approach, rethought his plans, and allowed himself to evolve. He understood that rigidity creates frustration, but flexibility creates solutions. Most importantly, Joe discovered that every struggle he endured added depth to his character. It revealed strengths he didn't know he possessed, exposed weaknesses he needed to overcome, and clarified his purpose with each step. Through hardship, he became wiser, more grounded, and more confident in the direction he was heading. He realized that the value of a struggle is not in the difficulty itself, but in what it leaves behind: a stronger spirit, a clearer mind, and a deeper appreciation for the journey. The life of Joe Ranga created echoes, subtle, powerful, and enduring reflections of his character that continued to touch people long after his actions were completed. These echoes were not formed through grand gestures or dramatic speeches, but through the quiet consistency of who he was. A person who showed kindness without expecting anything in return, who stood firm in his values even when it was difficult, and who encouraged others simply by believing in their potential. Joe understood that the true measure of one's life is not how loudly one speaks, but how deeply one's influence resonates in the hearts of others. His words, his decisions, and his way of treating people became lessons that continued to inspire growth in those who crossed his path. Many found themselves recalling his guidance during their own difficult moments, hearing his voice in the background when they needed courage, wisdom, or reassurance. What made Joe's echo so powerful was its authenticity. He never tried to impress anyone or shape himself to fit expectations. Instead, he lived honestly, embraced his purpose, and allowed his experience to become a source of strength for others. He understood that inspiration is not something you force. It is something you become, through the choices you make every day. His actions created a ripple effect that reached far beyond the moments themselves. People who met Joe often felt strengthened by his presence, even in small interactions. A simple conversation with him could leave someone feeling seen, valued, and capable of far more than they realized. His support, encouragement, and clarity had a way of unlocking confidence in others, helping them rise above their own doubts and fears. These moments, though brief, created lasting impressions, echoes that continued to guide them long after the conversation ended. Even those who heard about Joe secondhand, through stories, memories, or lessons passed down, felt the impact of his journey. His life became a testament to the idea that one individual, acting with sincerity and purpose, can influence countless others without ever seeking recognition. His choices encouraged people to reflect on their own paths, to reconsider the limits they placed on themselves, and to believe in the possibility of becoming better, stronger, and more intentional. Joe's legacy is carried not in monuments or awards, but in the personal transformations of those he touched. His echo lives in the courage he sparked, the hope he restored, and the direction he helped others discover. Each time someone rises because of the strength he once offered, the echo of Joe Ranga grows louder, spreading inspiration further than he ever imagined. You said. One of the most profound lessons found in the echoes of Joe Ranga's journey is the call he leaves behind, a call urging every individual to live with purpose and uphold integrity in all aspects of life. Joe believed that a meaningful life is not shaped by chance or circumstance, but by intentional choices made with clarity, honesty, and conviction. He understood that purpose is not merely a dream or ambition. It is a guiding force that shapes character, directs actions, and gives meaning to even the smallest of decisions. Throughout his life, Joe demonstrated that living with purpose means knowing why you do what you do. It means waking up each day with a sense of direction, making choices that align with your values, and being willing to sacrifice convenience for what is right. He taught that purpose is not something you find once. It is something you strengthen through experience, reflection, and perseverance. Each step of Joe's journey was driven by a deeper understanding of who he wanted to become and how he wanted to contribute to the world around him. Equally important to Joe was the principle of integrity. He believed that integrity is the foundation upon which a truly impactful life is built. It is the commitment to honesty when lies might be easier, the courage to stand by your beliefs when others disagree, and the discipline to stay true to yourself even when no one is watching. Joe knew that integrity cannot be borrowed, manipulated, or pretended. It must be lived consistently even when the cost is high. Joe's integrity was evident in his interactions, his work, and his relationships. People trusted him because his words matched his actions. They respected him because he made decisions rooted in fairness, humility, and sincerity. He never compromised his principles for temporary gain, and he never used excuses to justify actions that went against his values. This unwavering commitment to what he believed in earned him a level of respect that no title or achievement could ever provide. His life reminds us that purpose without integrity becomes hollow, and integrity without purpose becomes directionless. Together, they form the foundation of a life that leaves a lasting impact, one that inspires others, strengthens communities, and builds a legacy that stands the test of time. Through Joe's example, we are encouraged to reflect on our own lives, to clarify what truly matters, and to commit ourselves to living with both intention and honesty. Joe's call is not a demand but an invitation to rise above the distractions and pressures of the world, to choose clarity over confusion, and to pursue a life driven by meaning, truth, and inner strength. Another powerful dimension of Joe Ranga's journey is the quiet legacy he left behind, an influence that did not rely on grand gestures or dramatic moments, but on small, consistent acts of goodness that accumulated over time. While some people attempt to shape their legacy through public achievements or noticeable success, Joe understood that real impact is often built in silence. It is formed through daily choices, private commitments, and moments of integrity that no one may ever witness directly. Joe's quiet influence could be seen in the way he treated people, no matter their background, status, or circumstance. He believed that every person deserves respect and that kindness, especially when given freely, has the power to change someone's entire day or even their life. His simple acts of consideration, his willingness to listen, and his ability to make others feel seen became subtle yet powerful threads in the fabric of his legacy. Another part of this quiet influence was Joe's steadfast reliability. People knew they could depend on him, not because he spoke loudly about his intentions, but because he followed through on what he promised. He showed up when he said he would. He offered help without expecting recognition. He completed tasks with care and responsibility, even when no one was paying attention. This form of consistency built a deep trust around him. Trust that became far more valuable than any outward accomplishment. Joe also influenced others through the example of his personal discipline. He approached his work, relationships, and goals with a level of calm focus that inspired those around him. Rather than reacting impulsively or allowing challenges to shake his foundation, he moved with thoughtfulness, patience, and purpose. This quiet strength encouraged others to slow down, think deeply, and approach their own lives with clarity. His legacy was further shaped by the lessons he shared, not by lecturing but by living them. People who observed Joe learned about resilience from the way he endured hardship. They learned about humility from the way he celebrated others. They learned about authenticity from the way he remained true to himself, even when it would have been easier to follow the crowd. His example became a mirror, encouraging others to reflect on their own values and actions. What makes Joe's quiet influence so remarkable is its lasting power. Loud accomplishments may fade, but character endures. Public praise may be forgotten, but the impact of a sincere heart lives on in the people who were touched by it. Joe understood that influence is not about being remembered by everyone, it is about making a meaningful difference to someone. It is about leaving behind a trace of kindness, wisdom, and strength that continues to live in the choices and lives of others. Through this calm, steady, and genuine way of living, Joe Ranga built a legacy that speaks softly yet powerfully, a legacy that continues to shape minds, uplift spirits, and inspire purposeful living long after the moments themselves have passed. A final cornerstone of Joe Ranga's life is his remarkable ability to embrace change and pursue growth, even when it was uncomfortable, uncertain, or challenging. In a world where many resist transformation, clinging to the familiar or avoiding risk, Joe saw change not as a threat but as an essential part of life's journey. He understood that growth requires movement, sometimes slow, sometimes painful, but always forward. From early on, Joe recognized that personal and professional evolution are inseparable from the willingness to step into the unknown. He faced moments when the path was unclear, when decisions carried risk, and when the familiar offered false security. Yet, rather than retreating, he leaned into these moments, seeing them as opportunities to expand his understanding, skills, and perspective. He embraced the idea that change is not something to fear, but a doorway to new possibilities and greater insight. Joe's approach to growth was intentional. He sought out experiences that challenged his assumptions, exposed him to new ideas, and required him to stretch beyond his comfort zone. He welcomed constructive criticism, listened to alternative viewpoints, and constantly questioned himself in pursuit of improvement. To Joe, growth was never static, it was a dynamic, ongoing process fueled by curiosity, courage, and reflection. Moreover, Joe demonstrated that embracing change also requires resilience and adaptability. Life does not always unfold according to plan, and setbacks are inevitable. Yet, Joe treated these moments as lessons rather than failures, adjusting his course when necessary while maintaining clarity of purpose. He understood that flexibility does not compromise values, it enhances the ability to navigate life with wisdom and poise. His willingness to evolve also inspired those around him. People saw that growth is not about avoiding mistakes but learning from them. They learned that transformation comes from taking deliberate steps forward, even when the outcome is uncertain. By modeling this mindset, Joe encouraged others to confront their own fears, challenge old limitations, and cultivate a life defined by continuous improvement. Through embracing change and growth, Joe Ranga exemplified the idea that life's potential is not fixed. He showed that every experience, every triumph, every setback, every challenge, holds the possibility of transformation. His journey teaches us that the path to becoming our best selves is paved with openness, curiosity, and the courage to keep moving forward, even when the destination is not yet clear. One of the most profound aspects of Joe Ranga's life is his ability to inspire a vision that extended far beyond his own personal ambitions. While many individuals focus primarily on their own success, Joe understood that true fulfillment comes from creating something larger than oneself, something that impacts communities, uplifts others, and contributes to a meaningful purpose. His life serves as a testament to the idea that the highest form of leadership and influence is rooted in vision that touches more than just the individual. Joe consistently demonstrated that personal achievement is most valuable when it is coupled with the desire to create positive change for others. He invested his energy not only in his own growth but in nurturing the potential of those around him. He motivated people to see beyond their immediate circumstances, encouraging them to imagine what they could contribute to the world if they embraced courage, integrity, and perseverance. In doing so, he sparked hope and inspired action in ways that few words alone could achieve. This vision was built on empathy and understanding. Joe had an extraordinary ability to recognize the struggles and dreams of others, and he used this insight to guide, support, and empower. He believed that every person carries unique talents and potential, and he sought to create environments where those gifts could be realized. Through his example, he encouraged people to think collectively, to value collaboration, and to pursue goals that benefit more than just themselves. Joe also taught that inspiring a vision beyond self requires clarity of purpose and consistency in action. A vision is not merely an idea or wish, it is a commitment, expressed through deliberate steps and meaningful choices. Joe consistently demonstrated how to align actions with intentions, showing that when people act with purpose, they naturally influence and elevate those around them. His life illustrated that when one person leads with vision, the impact multiplies, creating a ripple effect that can touch countless lives. Furthermore, Joe's vision emphasized resilience and hope. He understood that the journey toward meaningful change is often long, uncertain, and fraught with obstacles. Yet, he never allowed challenges to deter him from pursuing a larger purpose. By modeling perseverance, he showed others that it is possible to remain steadfast, maintain optimism, and keep moving forward even in the face of adversity. Through his example, Joe Ranga revealed that living with a vision beyond self is not only an act of leadership, it is an act of generosity, courage, and love for humanity. He inspired people to think bigger, act nobly, and dedicate themselves to creating a positive legacy that extends far beyond their own lives. Another defining characteristic of Joe Ranga's life is the unwavering consistency and commitment he demonstrated in every pursuit, relationship, and principle he embraced. While talent, vision, and passion are often celebrated, Joe showed that it is consistency and steadfast dedication that truly define a person's lasting impact. He understood that success, influence, and respect are not built overnight. They are cultivated through persistent effort, repeated actions, and an unshakable adherence to one's values over time. Joe approached life with a sense of responsibility that left no room for half-hearted efforts. Whether it was a personal goal, a professional task, or a promise to someone in need, he gave his full attention, energy, and dedication. This commitment was not contingent on recognition or reward. It came from an inner conviction that doing things with care, diligence, and integrity was the right way to live. People were drawn to him not only because of what he achieved, but because they could rely on him to follow through time and again. His consistency extended beyond tasks and responsibilities. It permeated his character and values. Joe consistently lived by the principles he held dear, even when circumstances tempted compromise or the path seemed easier in another direction. This steadfastness built trust among those who knew him and inspired others to adopt the same level of dedication in their own lives. They witnessed firsthand that living with commitment is a powerful form of leadership, demonstrating that actions speak louder than words. Moreover, Joe's consistency created a foundation for long-term growth and influence. He recognized that meaningful change, whether in personal development, relationships, or community impact, requires patience and sustained effort. By showing up reliably, working diligently, and remaining true to his commitments, he set an example that achievements built on fleeting enthusiasm cannot match. His life illustrated that consistency is not about perfection. It is about persistence, resilience, and a steady progression toward one's goals. Joe also believed that commitment is a form of respect. Respect for oneself, for others, and for the responsibilities one carries. He taught that honoring commitment strengthens relationships, fosters credibility, and allows vision to transform into reality. People who observed Joe's dedication learned that small, repeated actions, performed with intention and integrity, accumulate into outcomes far greater than any single moment of effort. Through his life, Joe Ranga demonstrated that the strength of consistency and commitment is a force that shapes character, builds trust, and leaves a lasting impression. It is the quiet, enduring power behind every achievement, the foundation of meaningful influence, and the secret ingredient that transforms ordinary efforts into extraordinary legacies. As we reflect on the life and journey of Joe Ranga, it becomes clear that his story is far more than a series of accomplishments. It is a blueprint for living with purpose, courage, and integrity. The echoes of his actions, values, and vision continue to inspire us, reminding us that every challenge we face, every choice we make, and every step we take can leave a lasting impact. May we carry forward the lessons from his life, allowing his strength, resilience, and unwavering commitment to guide our own paths. Let us be inspired not only to dream but to act, not only to hope but to persevere, and not only to live, but to leave echoes of our own that uplift, empower, and transform the world around us. Thank you.